One. We're live. Look at that. I did actually reach out about an intro video thing for next week, so that'll be good. Anyway, my name is James McCool. I'm the owner of PayDirtDFS.com. This is Mondays with McCool, where we're going to be recapping the NFL DFS Week 14 main slate, going over all the things that went right, all the things went wrong, and specifically today, Josh fucking Allen, who just absolutely nuked the slate. I am joined today by Jordan Cooper, Blender. He is my best friend, I think, of all time.
That escalated quickly.
Well, yeah, I love you with a white hot passion. Jordan, how are you doing today, bud?
Fine. I mean, I made money yesterday, so I'm always fine if I made money yesterday. So that's good.
Yeah, you've had a good season.
Not in GPPs, but in cash games. I mean, when my cash game lineup scores nearly 200 points on both sites, probably going to do well. Although 200 points probably barely got you a min cash for most GPPs anyway.
Yeah. I scored I think like 230 something with my best GPP lineup, which was a Kirk Cousins stack. So I was feeling great about that. But yeah, you've had a good season. You've cashed. You've made money pretty much every week, right?
Yeah, and same for props.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I mean, this has been pretty good. I mean, as long as you didn't do anything stupid yesterday, you probably did well enough because when Zach Charbonnet at 4,800 is 43% owned in the millie, and he was like 75% in like the massive double up. And maybe I could go. I mean, this is what I want to highlight. I don't know if this. I don't got it up on Roto Grinders yet, but I mean, I could bring it up on my. Let me bring it up on my phone. Did people say, okay, NFL, there's no edge in double ups or anything like that? I'm echoing a sentiment that Davis Maddox was talking about on the Gilcast this just yesterday, right? Him and Nate about no, people don't play cash games because there's no edge. There's no edge. What is it possible to be an edge? Okay, let's see. I'm gonna go over to recent contest. How do I find this stuff anymore? Recent contest. I barely look at. I go back this way. Okay, and the massive $25 double up. Okay, so the single entry, man, the 5,000 entries, whatever. I'm gonna go to the ownership for this double up. Okay, Zach Charbonnet was 74% owned. Isaac Guerendo at 5,400 was 69% owned. Okay, which means that a quarter of the people that put an entry into this double up saw Zach Charbonnet at 4,800 and said, I'm not going to play him. That 31% of people saw Isaac Guerendo at 5,400 and said, who are you playing? What's going on here? Right? I'm just like I'd rather. I'm trying to think of. I'd rather play someone who are you playing in that spot? You look at running back ownership, right? And you had Kamara at 61, Barkley 26, Braylon Allen 19, right? And then you get Pollard at 4, Tracy at 2, Irving at 2, Kyron at 2. Okay, I mean, this is a $25 double up. So obviously this is not like GPP ownership.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so all these other guys like Kamara, Barkley, okay, you're probably playing 3 running backs in your lineup. It's like, okay, that makes sense. So where did this ownership go? You go to wide receiver, and you see that 16% of players played Calvin Austin, and 8% played Westbrook Akine, and Keenan Allen 4%. You take like all this stuff where you just go 2.5% of people paid Amari Cooper, 2.5% played Marvin Harrison Jr. in their double up lineup, DK Metcalf, and I mean, some of them, 1.25% Tyreek Hill. I mean, that ended up working out. But, I mean, you just take a look at this ownership and you go, what is going on? I mean, this is not like James. We're not talking GPPs here, but if you saw someone that put in a lineup, if you went to your head-to-heads and you saw someone did not play Zach Charbonnet at 4,800, I mean, wouldn't you be like, wouldn't you be messaging them saying like, do you need your like a head evaluation? Do you need an MRI or something? Like,
so there's two things that I would do in that situation. One, if I was playing and trying to like make money in DFS and like taking it seriously, I would write that person's username down on a sticky note and I would slap it right on the side of my computer so that I would challenge them every single week to head-to-heads until they just stop posting. The other thing, if I was just trying to get subscribers for the site, I would say, hey, this is the worst cash lineup that you could have made. I have a site that'll help you make better cash lineups. It's called paydirdfs.com. Because I don't.
I mean, what did you, James? What did you have as Zach Charbonnet's median projection?
Zach Charbonnet's median projection. Let's go ahead and take a look. I had Zach Charbonnet for a median of 16.55.
And that's low, and you're lower than most.
I'm probably a little lower. Yeah.
Right. Most places had him 18 to 19 as a median at 4,800. Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a median that you'd normally find at like 7,000.
Yeah. I mean, look, you can see he projected the same, just about the same as James Conner at 6,700, Bucky Irving at 6,600, Aaron Jones 6,500, and Kyron Williams 7,300. He's $2,000 underpriced. So what I said yesterday was, if you did not build the cash lineup, I just said the cash lineup this week, then you need to reevaluate how you approach cash because you have a misunderstanding of how to play cash games. And the cash lineup was Sam Darnold, Saquon Barkley, Zach Charbonnet, Jacoby Myers, Mike Evans, Juwan Jennings, Isaac Rendo, pick a tight end and a defense.
You didn't need Barkley. It's either Barkley or Kamara.
Barkley or Kamara. And I wrote in my cash card in the article that Alvin Kamara was also acceptable.
Right.
That's fine. But like, if you didn't have Darnold, Charbonnet, Myers, Evans, Juwan Jennings, and Isaac Rendo, what?
Well, why were you? People played Aiden O'Connell or Will Levis in cash games.
Yeah. Well, Will Levis at 5K. I did say that he was acceptable, but it was very likely you just play Sam Darnold. Like, I have it up on the screen right now. The top 10 cash optimals here that I ran over at Paydirt. The only differences in them, they had Saquon Barkley, but the only differences in them were you were choosing one of TJ Hawkinson, Cade Otton, or Juwan Johnson at tight end. And then there were a whole bunch of different defenses that you could have used because I don't project defenses to be like straight up different from each other. But very likely you probably end up on the Tennessee Titans, I would guess, because they're 2,800. So cash games, I mean, if you didn't play Charbonnet in cash games, you should just pack it up and just restart, just figure out a new process. There was no way that you were going to...
James, even in GPPs, if you didn't play some combination of like, you should have had at least one of Charbonnet or Garendo in your lineup. Or Braylon Allen or whatever. That's, I mean, to me, the position on the slate that had the most value was running back. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I played 7 teams. I had Charbonnet or Garendo or both in all of them. Mm-hmm. The way that I got different at running back, I mean, like my running back pool was literally, I think my running back pool was literally 5 players, I think.
Yeah.
And the off players, one that was very low owned. Right. So I did play Charbonnet, Garendo, Kamara. I faded Barkley. I played Braylon Allen. And then my last running back that I played in almost all of my lineups, he did well in the first quarter, but he died. Then the team died. The game kind of died. I played Najee Harris at 6,000 at 6% ownership.
Sure. Yeah.
Because he's in that range. I didn't want to play the 6K. I didn't want to play like like guys like Connor and James Cook and Bijan and
No.
anyone that was anywhere close to Kamara's price, because it just seemed unnecessary to do that. It's like if I'm gonna do anything else, I'm gonna play a guy that's closer to Charbonnet, Garendo, or Allen, and then want to have guys that could significantly outscore those players, but not outscore Kamara and Barkley types. Because it's quite possible on this slate that Zach Charbonnet goes out and gives you 18 points, or Garendo goes out and gives you 18 points. It's fine, but it's not like necessary. Now they both put up scores that were practically necessary. Charbonnet definitely. But I understand, like in GPPs, not playing one of them. Okay, I'm going to play a Garendo, Kamara, Allen lineup with no Charbonnet. It's okay. Or I'm going to play a Garendo and a Charbonnet, Allen, Kyron Williams lineup. Okay, one of them. But at these projections, I mean, you were just giving up so much projection by not jamming at least one of these guys into every lineup. And it's one of these situations, James, where, well, Charbonnet was 43% owned. Garendo was 41% owned. I'd be like, yeah, they're underowned. Charbonnet was underowned at 43%. Garendo, you could argue, maybe not. Maybe Garendo's efficient ownership would have been like 32%, but still one of the best values on the slate. But Zach Charbonnet in GPP, I believe that Zach Charbonnet at 4,800 may quite possibly has been the best value that we've seen in NFL the entire season.
Oh yeah, no, without a doubt, the best value that we've seen.
You're getting a bell cow for an actually decent team. Like when Walker's out, it's not like Charbonnet gets into the Walker role and then Kenny McIntosh gets 40. No, Zach Charbonnet is going to be on the field like 95% of the time, and he's going to catch like 5 to 7 balls out of the backfield on top of rushing the ball 20 plus times and getting the goal line work. I mean, he's lit. He has a role that's much more similar to Alvin Kamara. Actually, he probably has a better role than Alvin. He has a McCaffrey-like role for the Seahawks. So, like, to look at 4,800 and go, oh, he's gonna be chalk and fading him. That's not the reason you do that. Like 43% owned is still under-owned. 75% in cash games is egregious.
Yeah.
He should have been like 98% owned in double ups, and the only other 2% that wasn't owned were the people that just like fell in their shower the morning of and had to go to the urgent care and didn't have a chance to swap out their lineup in time. Like that. That's the only thing.
Zach Charbonnet's role is akin to what Chase Brown has been for the last 4 weeks.
Right.
So Chase Brown is an $8,000 running back. Zach Charbonnet should have been massively owned. And so when I run the contest sims, and I have contest sims up on the screen right now, Zach Charbonnet's efficient ownership in a medium-sized field above average was 39% based on the contest sims. Now, I was under the field on my projection. We said that at the beginning of this, right? If he was projected for 18, I think his efficient ownership is something like 55%. He's probably underowned in medium-sized fields. That being said, even if the contest sims had said that his efficient ownership was only like 35% and I had him projected at 45%, I still would have played him. And I still would have played him and Garendo together. And the reason why, what we've talked about on this show, and I think that something that has been consistent this year, just eat the chalk at running back, dude. Like it's fine. You eat the chalk at running back. What has won GPPs this year has been getting different at wide receiver, not necessarily at running back. The running back range of outcomes on typical slates has been somewhere between 18 and 26 fantasy points for 90% of the running backs. And if you have 41% of the marbles having a red marble, even if that red marble is a little bit underprojected, it's still likely that red marble is going to show up in a winner, right? So I didn't see a reason to get away from either of Charbonnet or Garendo. I built 3 lineups. I really liked the slate yesterday, so I was in the 555 milli with all 3, and I had Charbonnet and Garendo in all 3 of them. And the only one The only difference that I had was I had Braylon Allen in another one. I had a flex. I had Tyreek Hill in the flex, I think, in one of them. And then I had another one that was an overstack with Brock Bowers in the flex. So I didn't use 3 running backs in all 3, but I did have one with a Philadelphia stack where it was necessary to have all 3 of Braylon Allen, Zach Charbonnet, and Isaac Rendo. And I was fine with that because they're all free. And like the projections that you have on them, I had them all projected for somewhere between 13 and 16 fantasy points. Like, you just eat that. It's fine. You're not going to get that much value at wide receiver or tight end or this week quarterback. Even if you thought that Will Levis projected well, which he did at many places, including Pater, like, you didn't have a reason to get away from Charbonnet and Garendo. So I looked at this slate as saying, if I was going to play anything, one, I didn't want to play Saquon Barkley and Alvin Kamara. And we can talk about that.
A lot of people did that. A lot of people did that, which means that you had to play like multiple like cheap wide receivers. And there was like so many people. I mean, some of this, Calvin Austin in the Billy was 15% owned.
I know.
Nick West for Kikine, it's 4,700, was 14.9% owned. These guys were higher owned than Juwan Jennings, Jordan Addison. I mean, even Elijah Moore and some of these guys.
Puka.
The Steelers situation. Can we discuss the Steelers situation? Because
yes, we can.
George Pickens inactive at 11:30. Okay, which obviously everyone had to update their projections and shit like that. Yeah. Calvin Austin isn't the type of receiver where like Pickens goes out. Oh, they're gonna just throw the ball to the. Calvin Austin's the clear out like guy. He's like the guy that just they tell the. He's Marquez Valdez-Scantling from when he was on like the Chiefs. Like, dude, we know that you can't really do much. So just like fly route, just all the way to the goalpost, and just hope that someone covers you so someone else could get open. Like he's that guy. But then they have Mike Williams there.
Yeah.
They got who else they got? They got another receiver.
Van Jefferson.
They got a whole bunch of people that no one cares about that other teams dumped off at the, like a orphan, like a baby at a fire station somewhere. The only people that when Pickens was out that I'm like, okay, who are the people that are more likely to benefit that actually have a role on this team? It's Najee Harris and it's Pat Freiermuth. So It's like those are the two guys that I want to play. If you can guess what 3K receiver is actually going to have a role that's worth playing on this slate where all the values at running back, like God bless you, but I ain't gonna play 15% on Calvin Austin. Like I might as well just play Van Jefferson or Mike Williams because who knows anything, right? So like the Steelers stuff, that's why I was on Najee before when Pickens was in. Mm-hmm. So when Pickens goes out, I'm like, I was planning on playing a bunch of Najee anyway. So I'm like, oh, this is even better. I'll play Najee and Pat Freiermuth in my lineups also because so many people were paying down at tight end. We're paying for Juwan Johnson. So I'm like, okay, this is perfect. $3,800 Pat Freiermuth. The Steelers team total didn't really go down much. It went to like the 24.5 or something. So why wouldn't they want to play the 6K running back with goal line duty and has some pass catching ability and the tight end that's going to be out there for most of the time. So for cheap. So that's what I did on the Steelers. But I don't know how you projected Austin, Van Jefferson, and all these guys, but they couldn't have. I mean, dude, even the projections I saw were not that great. They would just like, there's no one. The problem is that there was really no like 3K or even 4K wide receiver worth playing at all. So these guys 7 points looks good.
Yeah. So to the point really quick on the team total, there's no way George Pickens is worth more than like 1.5 points. At most, right? Wide receivers, I think that the most valuable wide receiver that we've had in the last 5 years. I remember Odell Beckham Jr. got ruled out for the Giants, and he was worth 3.5 points against the spread. I remember that, and that was at his peak. So if peak OBJ is worth 3.5 points, George Pickens ain't moving the needle. Maybe a point there. I had Calvin Austin projected for 8 fantasy points. He wasn't a good value. His 4X rate was about 9.5%. He was not even in the top 20 in terms of 4X rate. I had Alan Lazard as a better 4X rate than I had for him at 4,400. So, yeah, I did have a Calvin Austin lineup, unfortunately, with my Philadelphia stack. I didn't even really like doing it that much, but I figured that if Philadelphia, like I was already fading against and getting direct leverage against Saquon Barkley. So I figured eating some ownership elsewhere didn't really matter all that much, and it made sense. But you're right. I mean, I probably should have just played Van Jefferson or Mike Williams. Because when I did the projections, I basically said, okay, well, I'm just going to give 12% target share to all three of these guys, and whoever the fuck comes out on top comes out on top. I didn't know who it was going to be. So,
but the point is that from an ownership perspective, wouldn't you rather? I mean, we go in the Millie. If I go to Pittsburgh, there's no reason why, not knowing anything, Calvin Austin's 15%, Van Jefferson's 2.5%, and Mike Williams is 1.4%. Ben Skrowinek is 0%, and he's 3K. Right? Right? There's no reason for. I mean, well, Calvin Austin's the guy because he's wide receiver 2 on the depth chart. That doesn't mean anything.
Well, no, I mean, I think that what people made the assumption of is based on ADOT and similar roles, like for or similar route trees, where they have people look at here's how people make decisions that aren't just looking at depth chart. Here's the next step up. After you move past the depth chart, then you start to say, okay, what are the ADOTs of these wide receivers? And then people say if it's a high ADOT, then the next wide receiver with a high ADOT is going to be the guy who takes over for that role. If it's a low ADOT, then it's the next wide receiver with a low ADOT. That's how people make those kind of like really broad decisions based on who's going to be the guy. The problem with that logic is that all of Calvin Austin, Van Jefferson, and Mike Williams had high ADOTs. So nobody had any fucking clue what was going to happen there.
None of these guys are possession receivers. George Pickens isn't even a possession receiver. I mean, like,
no, because that's not the way this Pittsburgh offense works. They don't have like Pat Freiermuth is their possession guy. They don't have a possession wide receiver. They just fucking chuck it because Russell Wilson still has a great deep ball. I kind of liken it a lot to something that the industry standard does for NBA. Where if we get somebody who gets ruled out in NBA 15 minutes before lock, automatically sites will overproject their backup, like automatically. So you'll see guys, and over at Paydirt, I try to be a lot more conservative about it. Like I'm usually 3 or 4 points under median projection on those guys who come in as backups when somebody gets ruled out that quick. Because I know that the industry's going to overproject them, and then they're going to get like 20 or 25% more ownership just because they got overprojected because they got ruled out late. Same thing with Calvin Austin in this instance. People basically saw that George Pickens got ruled out and thought to themselves, oh shit, there's value that I need to take advantage of, and for some reason didn't even think about the fact that we had 3 free running backs to leverage for value, and then they just plugged in Calvin Austin for some reason, and it made their builds kind of suck, honestly. What happened?
If you play Calvin Austin, James, you don't have to play Zach Charbonnet.
Oh, is that what people did in cash?
No, I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying. I can tell in GPPs just looking at wide receiver ownership in the Millie that people made more barbell lineups than I expected completely. Because I mean, I went into the slate looking at like, well, if you're playing Saquon Barkley or Alvin Kamara or someone like that, and if you're paying up for like Brock Bowers or Trey McBride, it's like, how are you going to pay up at wide receiver? Like, how are you also going to play Justin Jefferson? Now Justin Jefferson I knew was going to be popular because of Sam Darnold sack, so I get it. But I didn't expect Justin Jefferson at 7,800 to be the most owned wide receiver at 23.8% ownership. But the reason for that, and Drake London was 22.3% owned at 6,400. Mike Evans was 18% owned at 7,200. But that's because Calvin Austin was 15% owned, and Nick Westbrook and Keeney was 14% owned, and Elijah Moore was 7% owned. And we go down to Marcus Valdez-Scantling was 6.5% owned. Right, Amari Cooper 6.9% owned, and even cheaper guys. We go down to Ray McCloud, 2.5% owned. Sterling Shepard was 2.5% owned. Trey Tucker. Why the hell was Trey Tucker owned? 2.5, like 2.4% owned for $4,400 Parker Washington.
Well, okay, so hold on, because now we're getting in, like, once you get into these 2, 3, 4% owned players, that's a lot of MME. Like, that's not people who are
at 4,600.
Yeah, that's not people that are playing. That's people who are leveraging the Raiders.
Sure, I can. Let me click on Trey Tucker. I bet you I'm going to find lineups that only have one entry. I bet you. Let me. Can I look now? There's a.
But my point is that the majority of them are probably going to be MME. I don't think it's single. I don't think it's individual.
So 2.5%. Where are all these? How do I find this? You used to do in the old version of Results DB. Who has Trey Tucker in their lineups?
So you go up in.
The Millie, I can't. You're not going to be able to find it this way. Nope. I would have to download the CSV and do a search.
Okay. Speaking of, by the way, so I did some. This is kind of neither here nor there, but I did some digging the other day because I want to build a tool like this for Paydirt, like a Results DB. And I was digging into the source code for RotoGrinders, and they are using Fantasy Labs. Like
I know.
Actually, I did not know that. So I can just
the old results. That's what I said. The old results DB from RotoGrinders. I could click on a name and see all the lineups that he's in. Yeah. Right. No, they just shuttered that and just used the contest dashboard from Fantasy Labs. It's the same.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's hilarious.
I mean, they're the same team. I mean, it's the same company now.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, I think I would be inclined to think that the Trey Tuckers, like when you get into these 2-3% on guys, like a lot of the time there's so much MME that's happening these days. I don't think that it's not that nobody who is only playing a single lineup is playing Trey Tucker, right? Like I think that there's probably some people that are playing Trey Tucker with a single lineup, but I think the vast majority of Trey Tucker 2% ownership in the Millie Maker is going to be guys who are MMEing and just getting like exposure to guys like Parker Washington.
1% owned Tyler Boyd at 3,600.
Yeah, like I mean, when you get into that level of things, when you're looking at like Kevin Austin at 0.8%, that's probably just some dipshit who's playing Kevin Austin, right? I mean,
I think that's someone that typed in Austin thinking they're going to play Calvin Austin and played Kevin Austin. They're both the same price, right?
Jalen McMillan, 22 fantasy points. How about that one?
Well, 2 touchdowns, yeah.
Anyway, I agree. There was a lot more barbell than I kind of expected, and I agree with you on that. I did think that Justin Jefferson would be mega high owned. I made not a crucial mistake, but I'm frustrated about a 2v2 that I couldn't feasibly make with the lineup that I was building, but that I did tinker with and that I didn't hold. You ready for this?
What?
So I had my best lineup was a Falcons overstack with Kirk Cousins, Drake London, Darnell Mooney, brought it back with Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson. I did try to build a Sam Darnold with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, bringing it back with Drake London and bringing it back with Darnell Mooney by himself. I did try to make that, but it was $1,300 under the salary cap, and I couldn't justify it.
You pay up a defense. Pay for the Eagles defense.
Even if I would have paid up a defense, I still would have had like 800 remaining or something like that.
Okay, that was just fine. You can still do that.
I couldn't stomach it. It was a 53-point difference, and the difference between making 900 and making 80,000. So I'm a little frustrated about that, especially because the contest sims really, really liked Jordan Addison. Like if I'm showing it on the screen.
What was your projected ownership on him though?
So my projected ownership on Addison was 9%.
Okay, he came in at 11, so a little bit close enough.
I mean, even if he comes at 11, I had his optimal rate at 30%. I had him as a really.
And you need to fix that. His optimal rate was not 30%.
No, I don't. No. Because the way that the contest sims want to build out is by pairing with quarterback, and I had Sam Darnold as the best quarterback overall on the slate.
But so 30%, 30%.
in a medium above average field where most people are going to be playing Sam Darnold?
I mean, what did you have for Sam Darnold's ownership?
Sam Darnold, 18%, I think.
Okay, well, that's way.
15.
I mean, he wasn't going to be that owned. He was 12.8%. Aiden O'Connell was the highest owned quarterback in the Millie,
which is hilarious, by the way.
Will Levis was 10%, Aiden O'Connell 13%, Sam Darnold 12.8%. Then he got Mayfield, then a dip down to Allen, and then he got like everyone else kind of.
I have no idea how Aiden O'Connell came in at 13% owned.
Oh, I know how.
Well, because of Brock Bowers. I mean, Brock Bowers
and Jacoby Myers. They both projected well. I mean, they both were cash game plays, so it's very easy for someone.
Yeah, but no. But Aiden O'Connell. The reason why the cheap running backs were so important was so that you wouldn't have to play somebody like Aiden O'Connell or Will Levis. Like I'll push back a little bit there. If we're going to say that the cheap running backs were able to allow you to make better lineups, and when Calvin Austin comes in at 15% owned, you would not expect Aiden O'Connell to still be the highest owned quarterback. That's insane.
People wanted to jam. I mean, you could tell just from the running back ownership that people wanted to jam in Barkley and Jefferson or Barkley.
Yeah, but there was nothing barring you from doing that with Darnold or Baker Mayfield or Tua or.
Yeah, but they also want to play Mike Evans. Yeah,
but Mike Evans is part of Baker Mayfield, who came in at 9%.
Yeah, but then they also want to play Jefferson and Barkley in that lineup, and you can't do it that way.
With a cheap tight end? Yes, you could.
No, you could. No, that lineup? Evans, Jefferson, Barkley? You can't make that lineup without like.
You can do it with Kamara. You can do it with Barkley.
Okay. Right.
I think that Aiden O'Connell at 13% is absolutely batshit insane. I didn't project him that high. I didn't even consider play. I had Las Vegas as a good value. That's a good value only because of Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers. Sure, like I'm fine with playing them, but like under no circumstances would I have if the cards would have flipped and I would have played a Las Vegas stack and I saw Aiden O'Connell at 13% owned, I'd have said I fucked this slate up by having 14%.
I played one, and one of my 7 lineups was an Aiden O'Connell one.
I don't think he was a terrible play at like 5%, 13% ownership is fucking terrible. I had to make sure that lineup was different. I mean, what did that lineup even look like? Let me see. Can I find my own lineup? I can find it for you.
No, I can find my lineups. Lineups. So what did my Aiden O'Connell lineup look like? Okay, let's see. I have to scroll down. Yeah, this is the lineup this is the lineup I didn't play Charbonnet in, right? Because like there's no way that I could play Aiden O'Connell. I could play this chalk stack, and right. I played Harris, Najee Harris, Garendo, Justin Jefferson, Mike Evans, Pat Freiermuth, New Orleans defense. Scored 138 points, so it's not like it did well, obviously. But I'm saying my concession on the Aiden O'Connell lineup is that okay, I'm not going to play the highest combinatorial owned stack, and then also play Charbonnet and Garendo in my lineup.
Here's what I would say. I would not play the fucking highest owned stack if it means giving up Charbonnet.
Well, that's why I did it in one of my lineups and not
that line. No, hold on. So let's talk about this lineup really quick. So you're really big on making sure that you don't get too far away from the median optimal, right? But you're okay with doing it if you have less ownership. So what the fuck happened with this lineup? Because there's no way.
Well, Najee Harris. I mean, they're basically Najee and Pat Freiermuth were the keys to this lineup. I don't mind playing. Everyone else projected well in this lineup.
Projected well, but I mean, Najee Harris
6% owned. I mean, give it to me.
I think that you gave up too much median on this.
The amount of ownership. I know I didn't because I did the calculation. I know I did.
I know. Well, I'm sure you did the calculation. That's a crazy lineup. I'm looking through your lineups now.
Right. This Aiden O'Connell lineup projected for maybe 7 points below optimal, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's fine. It's the Millie.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's my point. It's the Millie, and that ownership is fucking crazy for that lineup.
You see, I played an overstacked Cardinals Seattle lineup. I played a lot of Charbonnet plus Metcalf or Charbonnet plus JSN.
Yeah,
on the Seattle side.
Yeah, I didn't hate that. I thought that Garendo plus Juwan Jennings was totally fine. I didn't mind any of that kind of stuff.
I mean, you see my highest performing lineup, 191.58, was a Darnold stack with Jefferson and Hawkinson, Drake London as a run back. I played Charbonnet, Garendo, Najee Harris, New Orleans defense. I mean, you're fine with this lineup, right?
Yeah, I was fine with that lineup.
Right.
Hold on, I'll bring up
DK Metcalf 5% owned, Najee Harris 6% owned. Everyone else is pretty much chalk, right? I mean, I'm just playing them all together.
My best was Cousins with Garendo and Charbonnet, Justin Jefferson, Drake London, Darnell Mooney, TJ Hawkinson, Tyreek Hill, and the Tennessee defense.
Okay.
That was my best. I locked Tyreek Hill this week. I thought Tyreek Hill was an incredible play this week. But alas, I still got my ass kicked.
Sad state of my lineup where my second best lineup was a Caleb Williams lineup.
I mean, I didn't think that Caleb Williams was that bad of a play though. He was cheap.
He simmed well. That's why I played him. I just played one lineup, and of course I played him with DJ Moore and Keenan Allen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I wrote up Keenan Allen as undervalued, back-to-back 20-plus fantasy point performances. I thought his ceiling was about the same as Jacoby Myers. I didn't think that there's anything like from a median standpoint, Jacoby Myers projected better, which I think was right. But from a ceiling standpoint, like they're the same play. Was there anything that struck out to you for running backs in terms of ownership that you thought was a little weird? I didn't think so.
I mean, I expected Barkley to be heavily owned, and I wasn't going to play him at that ownership. I mean,
no, I didn't think. I found no reason to go up for Barkley or Kamara when I would have rather played expensive wide receivers. I suppose there's probably moved wide receivers.
Originally I was considering playing Achane as a Kamara replacement, and then I just thought that was stupid also.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I thought Achane was probably a fine play. I liked the Miami spot. But I couldn't just like you, I couldn't justify just paying up for running back just to pay up for running back.
Just to be different, can Achane just outright beat out Barkley and Kamara, and then the rest of my lineup looking the same as everyone else's lineup that would have Barkley and Kamara in it. Like the whole point of me not playing like Barkley or not playing Kamara in a lineup was to make my lineup construction different. Not it's the same lineup, but instead of having Drake London in that spot, you have DK Metcalf in that spot. It's like I want to be more different than that.
That's the kind of stuff you do in NBA. You don't do that in NFL.
Right.
It's fine in NBA. You don't do it in NFL. For wide receivers, we talked a little bit about the Calvin Austin thing, but I mean, wide receiver ownership overall, once again, and I'll just hammer home this point, like you won GPPs by having a 7% owned wide receiver, by having a 6% owned Tyreek Hill, by having a 3% owned Devontae Adams. Like you didn't win GPPs based on the super highly owned wide receivers. So once again, we're seeing that wide receivers, you should be trying to find your relative value at wide receiver. Now, that does not necessarily mean that you should be finding relative value based on quarterbacks, though. So I think that's an important point to make. Darnold was still high owned, and he ended up nuking with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. So, I mean, you could have gone Matthew Stafford with Puka Nacua. You could have gone Josh Allen with Khalil Shakur, who put up 25 fantasy points. But you didn't need to. Your quarterback, you could have played still the chalk quarterback stack. So based on that, do you think, because we've been talking about this kind of concept for a while, are you finding that you are looking to get different with your stacks or your one-offs at wide receiver this year?
One-offs. I mean, typically that's what you're looking to do. I don't I don't want to play. If we take a look at ownership, I don't want to play Jacoby Myers as a one-off because there are more Jacoby. If Jacoby Myers has put up a game high enough where the one-off matters and he puts up 30 fantasy points, most likely the stack is there as well. There's a concept very similar to NHL, very similar to MLB as well. Like, I don't want to play high-owned players that are part of, like, I thought Justin Jefferson was going to be lower owned, so that's a little bit different story of why I played Justin Jefferson as a one-off. But like, I didn't want to play Calvin Ridley as a one-off with how many Levis lineups there were going to be, right? I didn't want to play necessarily like a Jerry Jeudy one-off. Like I'll play an Elijah Moore one-off, right? Lower owned. Like I just don't want like the main feature as part of popular stacks. I try not to play as one-offs because if I'm going to play them, I'm going to play them as part of the stack. If you get what I'm saying, because if they go off, most likely the stack went off, and I don't have the rest. I don't have those players. I just have the one guy like Addison as a one-off. Beautiful, right? I think Addison was a great one-off. I think Puka, Tyreek. I mean, if you take a look at the top of wide receiver scoring, Devontae Adams as a one. Like, who's playing Aaron Rodgers stacks? No one, right? Devontae Adams one-off. Like these are the one-off type of guys, right? I don't want to play Drake London one-offs. I don't want to play Jawan Jennings one-offs. I don't want to play stuff that other people are playing too much of as it is, and they're more likely to put stacks on them. Like the Seattle wide receivers were great for one-offs. I thought they were great for stacks also. I played a Geno stack. I played two lineups with that game in it. And I was more likely to play 4 or 5 guys from that game or play 0. Because I thought the range of outcomes on that game was either, oh, this game could really shoot out, or this game could be absolutely awful, right? Kyler Murray sucks, and then the Seattle Seahawks get to run the ball 32 times. It's one of those games. So I didn't want to have it all sprinkled out. I don't want Marvin Harrison. That's a great one-off. Like these are the types of people you should be playing as one-offs, but like the high-owned players, especially the mid-range players, like to me, Jacoby Myers as a one-off, awful. So, but when Aiden O'Connell and Brock Bowers are the highest-owned stack in the entire slate.
Yeah, is it more dictated on ownership for you?
Well, yeah.
I'm just trying to give people a little bit more like insight on how that they can do the same thing when they're building out their lineups.
Well, think in terms of this, like. Think in terms of in baseball, okay? So you think, okay, the Dodgers are in cores, right? And the Dodgers have an 8 and 9 point implied team total, whatever. And that's not the time to play like an Ohtani one-off, right? It's like I'm either going to play 5 Dodgers or I'm going to play no Dodgers. And if I'm going to play one of the Dodgers, it's going to be I'm going to play Will Smith at catcher because everyone is paying down for this $2,700 catcher that is underpriced for some other team just so they could fit in 5 Dodgers into their lineup. And you need the catcher spot, and Will Smith is the Dodger with the catcher spot. So he's only going to be 12% owned instead of like 40% owned like the rest of the Dodgers. He would be the one. He would be the one-off if I played a one-off from the Dodgers. But understand the correlation between players in the same game, the players on the same team. If the team does well, more people get more points, right? So if I'm gonna that Dodgers lineup, it's like, why am I playing Mookie Betts as a one-off? Why am I playing Ohtani or Freeman as a one-off? Because like if they do well, it's more and more likely all of the Dodgers have done well. And they're all high. It's a high-owned stack. And I'm sitting there with I got 42 points from Shohei Ohtani. It's like, yeah, but the rest of my lineup is a stack that scored 6 runs while the Dodgers put up 15 in cores. And Freeman has 38 and Betts has 32. And like, I don't have these guys in their own. So like, why am I playing a high-owned one-off from a place where everyone's playing the correlated players? And then the opposite is also true. Right. So you take a look at the slate, the NFL slate. It's like, well, there's going to be so many Aiden O'Connell, Jacoby Myers, Brock Bowers lineups. I don't want to play Jacoby Myers as a one-off, but then you also have like Drake London is going to be popular as a one-off, and no one's playing Kirk Cousins stacks. Like, then you could do the opposite there and go, well, how do I play Drake London in a way that these other Drake London lineups don't have, that is correlated to Drake London? Well, there's a lot of one-off Drake London lineups. Well, if I play a lineup that's Cousins, London, Mooney, Jefferson. These London lineups don't look like the other London lineups. And all these players are correlated to Drake London. So that's the opposite side of that approach. So if there's a popular one-off, a lot of times, hey, if this one-off does well, who comes along with them? Well, are those one or two guys like low owned? Well, dude, if you played Cousins, London, Mooney, Jefferson, you could play Zach Charbonnet and Isaac Orendo in that lineup because the combination of those players' ownership is low enough, and Cousins is like nothing owned, and Mooney was 5% owned. Like, you're good at that. Cousins and Mooney by themselves in a Drake London stack gives you enough leverage where feel free to just jam in the chalk running backs because you're good. You're fine. You're done. You did it.
Yep, that's exactly what I did yesterday. So yeah, I wanted to have you flesh that out a little bit because that's something that I think a lot of people struggle with. Is trying to understand when it makes sense to play a one-off versus when it makes sense more to stack. And I usually look at it mostly the same way. I also want to deal a little bit with price as well. Like I don't really like playing like cheap one-off wide receivers. I think that generally that's silly. The Calvin Austin thing yesterday. I think that usually it's much better to say, okay, well, if that guy is going to get there, then what are other ways that him getting there, I can raise that a little bit. I can use that correlation to maximize. So just wanted to go over that a little bit. To your point also on Aiden O'Connell, Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers, 4.1% of the total field in the Million Maker had that combo. 4% of the total. That is fucking insane, dude. That's insane.
And 3% had O'Connell Bowers.
I mean, at least people for the most part thought to themselves, if I'm going to play Aiden O'Connell, I'd better fucking stack him. Like, at least people thought to themselves, okay, if I'm going to do this, I might as well bring some people along with him. What a slate, man. So we haven't had a late night hammer that has really hammered so hard in a while. And then we just got demolished by Buffalo Rams. I felt pretty good going into that late slate. I was 3x my money or something like that. I was having a pretty good time. I had Garendo and Zach Charbonnet rearing ready to go. I had locked in Tyreek. I was like, this is going to be a good slate. I feel good about this. Fast forward to Puka Nacua and that entire game just going fucking nuts. I liked the Ram stack. I did not like Buffalo stacks. So I wasn't even in contention last night.
Right. Well, just to put things into perspective, Josh Allen put up 54.88 fantasy points, and he pretty much didn't need anyone else on Buffalo.
Yeah,
you didn't need Khalil Shakir. He got 24.6 points, but I'm just saying that typically it works in the way like you go to Minnesota and you go, well, Sam Darnold put up 37.5 points. Well, most likely, Addison had 42 and Jefferson had 35, right? Because the way that Sam Darnold gets points means that other people get points.
Right.
Buffalo, it doesn't work out that way. Buffalo, Josh Allen gets points and he keeps them all for himself, right? And he'll throw a pass to, okay, here's Mac Hollins, here you go. Here's Ty Johnson, there you go, have fun, right? And then next thing you know, he has all the points and you don't.
I pulled up the Buffalo scoring. Josh Allen, 54.88. Khalil Shakir, 24.6. Mac Hollins, 15.7. Amari Cooper, 15.5. Ty Johnson, 13.5. And James Cook, 4.9. What the fuck happened to James Cook? Like, is he broken? Is he?
Well, I mean, they were down. I mean, the Bills were down. So that.
Well, no, but he hasn't produced in weeks. He's just dead.
Well, I don't play him at 7K plus, so it doesn't matter.
No, I mean, I'm not. I haven't been playing him either. But yeah, I mean, there. Do you think that there's like something to recognizing and putting together something that figures out the distribution within scoring of like a team? Because I'm sure that if you did that, you would look at Josh Allen.
Good luck on Buffalo.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I think you would look at Buffalo and you'd be like, not stacking them.
Well, this is even with Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid.
I know.
Now they'll come back, and good luck to you. Good. Yeah, I mean, when you asked about what do I use to decide what teams I'm going to stack, one of the top things is, do I know where the ball is going? I mean, seriously, a lot of times it comes down to why did I play a Caleb Williams stack? It's like, well, if the Bears go off, they throw the 3 guys, and that's it, essentially. And they're cheap. They're $6K or less. Okay. I only have to guess 2 of them. Like Jameis Winston with no Cedric Tillman. It's Judy, it's Moore, it's Njoku. I don't have to guess, right?
Yeah.
I don't have to guess it. Sam Darnold, right? It's Jefferson, it's Addison, it's Hawkinson, pretty much, right?
Yep.
That's it, right? I mean, like, I like teams like that rather than try to figure out, the distribution of targets for Mac Jones and for Bryce Young and all even if they're cheap, even Jalen Hurts. It's like, dude, they don't pass the ball enough to support like AJ Brown being $8,100. And and then you got the Jets. The Jets are condensed for the most part. I wouldn't have minded, like, dude, if you said I'm going to play an Aaron Rodgers stack and stack Adams and Wilson, I don't think that actually showed up on Roto Grinders as a good simulated lineup. Obviously, you had to jam in like all the chalk around that because that stack
they're going to be 2% owned total. Yeah,
right. But let's say if you wanted to play a Purdy, Jennings, Kittle lineup yesterday, I think that's fine also.
Yeah.
Right? If the Stafford, Cup, Puka Nacua lineups, the only problem with that is that they're expensive because the receivers are too expensive or expensive together. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I prefer to play guys that if the team goes off, I know where the ball is pretty much going. And teams that have high team totals. So like Aiden O'Connell, you know where the ball is going. It's going to Jacoby Myers. It's going to 3 places. It's going to Jacoby Myers. It's going to Brock Bowers, or it's going over their heads or in the ground or at another defensive player for an interception. So like the ceiling may not be there because a lot of times it is going to the other team in an interception rather than the receivers, even though you know where the ball is going. Yeah. Geno Smith, you know where the ball is going. Like a lot of these teams, you know where the ball is going. Yeah. Truthfully, Baker Mayfield, actually, you don't know where the ball is going as much as you think. I played a Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, Kate Otten lineup. Yeah. And then, McMillan scoring touchdowns and Shepard's flaunting all over the place. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right. The Buccaneers really don't have really a condensed passing act. Kyler Murray, good luck to that. He throws to God knows who. Dortch is there, and Michael Wilson's catching passes. Yeah. And then all you know is that once it's the end of the game and they're behind, McBride's going to get six catches on like one drive and get there. So like and he's not going to score a touchdown, obviously, but he will PPR his way to a respectable score.
Yeah, I'm gonna put something together that shows. I guess it would be the average fantasy points ratio on a team. Then just like look for high numbers, I guess. And I mean, heuristically, like there's ways to figure it out. Like you just named like 7 teams off the top of your head that make sense to fit that, but I think algorithmically showing it would be kind of cool.
It also depends on who's in and who's out. I mean, like start taking people out of offenses, it makes it easier.
No, not necessarily.
Other than the Steelers.
No, look, I mean, if you have take Seattle. Take Seattle. If you take out JSN, then the assumption by most people would be that it would be Tyler Lockett that would step up. But like what happens in reality is it never just replaces. You and I have talked about this before. It never just replaces. Like there's some of it to here, some of it to here, some of it to here. We see it all the time where people think that a direct backup is going to get. We said at the beginning of this fucking podcast. A direct backup is not going to be the one that gets all of the work most of the time. You spread it out. And something that Joey McFarland over at Fantasy Life, him and I have talked a lot about how to do this algorithmically, is set up something that it kind of like designates the ability to garner targets when you step into a starting role. There are not very many wide receivers in the league that actually have the ability to garner targets when stepping into a starting role. There are starters on teams for a reason. So, like with Seattle, if DK Metcalf is out, Tyler Lockett doesn't just step into that. Like JSN gets a good chunk of that, and then Tyler Lockett can't run the same routes that DK Metcalf can. Jake Bobo certainly can't fucking run the routes that DK Metcalf can. So you do have to be reticent of it a little bit, but I do think that there's something to be said about recognizing based on game circumstance how condensed offenses are, and doing it algorithmically would be kind of fun. So, you got any closing thoughts on this slate, Mr. Cooper?
No, we got 4 more weeks of the regular season, and yeah, feel free to not play the. I feel free to not play the sub 5K running back that projects for 18 points in my double ups. It's week 14. I mean, I'm used to seeing like that type of stuff in the beginning, right? But for 25% of people, then in double ups, to not play, I don't know. There's still an edge. People would say that, James, I started playing in 2015. Okay, October 2015 was when I started playing DFS. So we're almost at 10 years. At October 2015, I start looking on the Roto Grinders forums or whatever. You know, I'm beating around. You know what people were saying? DFS is dead.
Yep.
There's no edge anymore. DFS is dead. It's dead. Does anyone have I mean, it's dead. It's completely 2017. Like, dude, I don't think there's an edge in DFS anymore. It's dead. It's dead. DFS is dead. Like, so it's 2024, right? And we've been hearing DFS is dead. There's no edge. No, everyone knows what they're doing. Stuff like that. Zach Charbonnet, 75% in double ups on week 14 of an NFL slate at 4,800 for the Seahawks. There's 25% of people out there that are just roaming around like little lemmings in your Sim City game or whatever. They're just wandering around, whatever, walking into walls or stuff. Yeah. There's still people that have no problem putting in $5 or $25 and then just banging their head against the keyboard or falling over themselves in the bathtub or something like that, and end up with a non-Zach Charbonnet double up lineup that who cares? The rake's 12%. Well, these people are already they're paying for it and then some.
It's beautiful. I love it. I thought this was a fun slate. I hope we get more slates like this. I would argue that we don't actually have 4 weeks left of the regular season. We have like 2 weeks left of the regular season, and then everything just goes to hell. I'm focused more moving forward on NBA for like prop stuff and like the newsletter and stuff like that, and NCAA basketball. We have a really good model for that over at PayDirt, so I'm going to be putting some folks on that in terms of dedicating a little bit of bankroll towards that. But yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. If you have not checked out PayDirtDFS.com, you should do that. I think that, you know, we've had a nice little influx. We passed 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Super exciting, super cool stuff. So if you have not tried out PayDirt, go do that. Join the Discord. Free to join. You can find it here under members. Go check out the subscription options over at subscribe. Also, if you have not checked out theorydfs.com, you should absolutely check out the Theory of Daily Fantasy Sports by myself and Mr. Cooper. We have 2 editions. One for advanced players, including custom Excel tools. Also has a whole bunch of stuff that I built out to help you better manage your play. So thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it. And I will talk to you on the next edition of Mondays with McCool. And I will talk to everybody else later.